So we're going to get right into this coaching session. I'm going to skip around to specific areas where I wanted to highlight the information exchange between teacher and student and what a good coach can take from this information to learn more and connect better with their student to be more efficient in their coaching.
Tell me a few words about yourself. How did you get into the Dota? How long have you been playing the game? And yeah, have you been like a part of some team and stuff like that? Just like about yourself and like your Dota experience. What's your MMR at this point?
3.5.
Okay, what was like the biggest MMR you ever reached, like your peak MMR?
4K.
Tell me a few words about what do you like the most about Dota, like why you even play this game, what is the most enjoyable part for you, and like what is the most like disenjoyable, what do you dislike about this game, what would you like to change, or I don't know.
I like that the game almost never gets stale. It's always like a fun strategy exercise and outthinking people. It's kind of like a chess game. Probably the most frustrating thing is when I think that I know better than my teammates and they don't listen to me and we lose because of that. So right here, what Max is doing is he's qualifying me as a student. He finds out how much I know about the game, what my skill level is, and then he asks me why I enjoy the game. And what we learn here is actually a very important point. We learned that I like the analytical problem solving of the game, meaning that I tend to think about the game a lot. And I also give a little hint into the fact that I am a little bit egotistical in the game. And I believe that my teammates should listen to me because I perhaps think about the game more than they do, which may or may not be true. Either way, knowing that I like to think about the game, I like to dissect the game, is a very important point because it frames how he can give me information in the future. And also he should note that perhaps some of the problems that I have in game come from the fact that I might have an egotistical connection to winning and losing.
Mm-hmm. So first of all, like about setting goals, I mean, what do you want to achieve in the game? Like, and you got like the coaching session, you want to get better, but the question is, like, why do you need this? Like, what are the reasons for that? Because, like, you know, there are people that are just playing, and at some point they just say, "Oh, I need to get better. I need to get a coach, or just I need to watch videos, or just whatever." And I mean, all people want to get better at some point, but like, you know, not all the people. Like, maybe a small percent of people just gets coaching. So, what do you think about that?
I think that I've always been really good at every sport that I've ever played. And so I really don't like losing. and so I want to win as much as possible and prove that I'm actually really good at the game.
So you want to like improve your win rate, right?
Yes. I think that I want like 2 or 3 goals to focus on for the next however long.
So do you have them like set in stone, or do you want to?
No, I want to figure them out.
Right.
I think maybe communicating more clearly is one, but then maybe find an actual gameplay one and maybe a strategy one as well.
So like first, like is communicating, right? Could you please repeat? Because I'm making notes.
Yep. So communicating more clearly. So obviously setting goals is a very important point in any coaching session. Because it gives the student and the teacher kind of like a bullet point or an outline of what needs to be covered. And it can keep you guys on task throughout the entire process. Once again, I've mentioned that I don't like losing. I'm attached to winning. So that's just something that Max can keep in mind going forward. And it can help him kind of give me maybe a value proposition. This is good because it helps with winning. And that might sound a little bit kind of redundant. Obviously, I'm getting coaching because I want to get better. But during the session itself, it kind of helps to bring the student back to goals over and over and over again, because it gives them something concrete, concrete feedback throughout the session to remind them why they're here and why the knowledge is important. And creating that sort of reinforcement in the student's mind is really important to them retaining the information.
The last question is like you obviously improve by yourself when like there are no coaches around. How do you do it? Like how do you improve as you like as a person?
Play a lot and watch videos. So the learning style of a person is not necessarily the most simple thing to understand. There's what's called like a learning cycle, where somebody feels the action, they watch the action, they think about the action, and they do the action. And this is something that happens over and over and over again in the process of learning something. Now, there's also learning channels that people take information through to learn about something. Those can be visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. Kinesthetic being the action of doing. And right here, I revealed that I like to watch videos, but I also like to think about them. And we know that because I said it before, and also I'm kind of saying it again, in that I like to, on my own, watch videos and dissect what the person is doing, and then try and integrate it into my own play. So what Max should be taking from this part is that I need to be involved in the process of learning. I know this personally from my own experience of 27 years of learning stuff, is that I am definitely somebody that doesn't like to just sit there and listen to a professor talk. I need to actually be involved to assimilate the information correctly. So that's the most important point. And Max does a great job asking me these questions to bring out the information. But the important part is actually taking the information that the student's giving and then keeping it in mind as you give your lesson.
Small improvement for you at the area of like if you want your teammates to listen to you, you have to give them really like smart ideas, not only maybe basic commands or just whatever. But I guess we will be able to.
That's a good point. I definitely just I expect people to read my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like there might be sometimes that is something is very obvious to you, but for your teammate, like he might be even like shopping at this time, or just last hitting, or just his girlfriend might be doing massage to him, and he's very like relaxed and not paying much attention to the game. So
right,
yeah,
makes sense.
Okay,
so it's good that within the first little bit of the lesson, as soon as the introduction's done, Max is giving me some information based on the first goal that I asked him about. I wanted to get better at communicating with my teammates because I think that's an area personally where I need to improve. And so one of the first things that he addresses is some theory about communication, and it highlights a good point of being more clear. Now I think that it's time to kind of turn this into maybe a task. When you play, focus on verbally communicating with your teammates every single time that you decide to go in for a gank would be a good thing to think about during the game, or something like that. What I like to do when I'm teaching people is to give them knowledge and then also give them an exercise that they can take practically into their everyday life or whatever the activity is, so that there is sort of something holding them accountable. You can read as many books as you want, but if you don't actually apply the information as soon as possible, it tends to kind of just seep out.
The knowledge will come to you with experience, and I believe that you are a pretty experienced player. You're like 4K, so most of the stuff I tell you, it can be like you can already know this, but being consistent about thinking about this stuff each time is part of becoming a better player, because you will gain experience faster, and you will like your speed at improving as a player will increase because you will have like deeper thoughts about the game each time you go into this thought process.
So Max highlights a very important point here, that repetition is key, and thinking about a concept multiple times allows you to kind of go deeper into that concept. The main reason I wanted to highlight this specific area is that we are about 25 to 30 minutes into the lesson, and we haven't really even started the replay analysis yet. We did a replay analysis for this game, or for this coaching session, to highlight the 3 goals that we talked about at the beginning. And I think that engaging your students early especially if they've kind of given you hints that they need to be involved in the learning process, is super important. So yes, the information that Max is giving me is great, but we took a little bit too long to get here. We had like some Dota buff discussion, which was definitely helpful, but it just took a little bit too long to develop. And that's something that I see a lot with teachers who have a ton of knowledge to give, and they feel the need to like give as much as possible to their student at all times. And sometimes it's better just to kind of like get into the lesson, to get into the parts that the student specifically asked for, and then you have more time to give the knowledge throughout. You don't need to just kind of like spill it all in the beginning. You can inject little bits of knowledge here and there that the student might not know, but if you lose them early because they're not engaged in what you're saying, then everything else that you do after that point is going to be a lot less effective. So engage your students, get them into the lesson, learning the way that they need to be learning as soon as possible, and then you can hammer the knowledge later, but just hold their attention.
Here are some things that usually people do in pro games, and I do as well. Like you gotta, let's see, watch this moment again. Like you landed like lived into a stun on this guy, which is really nice, but I mean, there is such thing called body blocking.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, here I would really leave the rune for Invoker. I don't know, why did you pick this?
Because it looked like the other guy was going to get it from the top.
Yeah, but like, let's even see it one more time. It was like that guy wasn't not really yeah, see, he was just here, so he was like one step for the rune. I mean, it's a small moment, and you took the rune. It's not the end of the world. What I would do here on this situation, I would just go for the rune. I would step right on top of the rune, and I would press hold position.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are standing on top of the rune, it's harder for the enemy to pick it up. Do you know how it works?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
So right here is a good use of the replay. We watched the clip a couple times. We talk about it. So that helps me as a visual learner because I'm able to see and respond to the information that Illusion is giving me in real time. So that part is excellent. I also wanted to just kind of highlight that he is using what I would refer to as a command style learning. And command style learning is great in certain areas. Command style would be kind of like the lecturing professor, where they basically just tell you what to do. They tell you the knowledge, and then you just sit there and take it all in. And in some areas, this is definitely the way to go. But then it's also good to be able to change it up at times. So that is command style learning that we just witnessed, and we will have another example of that pretty soon. And I would like to also highlight the alternative to command style learning after this next clip.
Also, a good idea would be to have a lane word early. So for example, I sometimes in pubs, and usually I started doing it more, like whenever the game begins, I buy the observer word, I buy all the stuff, and then I TP to this lane. Like, I will even press the free camera, so it would be better to...
Yeah, TP early so you can get the word done.
Yeah, so for example, I can TP to a lane, I go like this, like here, 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 and from behind these trees, I place a word here. And it will give me the information, like, usually, like 20 or 30 seconds after this, the enemy offlaner goes to put in their word in our jungle. So I can easily locate that word and destroy it.
So Illusion gives me some more very good information, something that I definitely wasn't thinking about at the time. But this is a good spot where you can use what I call guided discovery, or sort of like a team-based learning. It's great that he tells me where to put the ward and then what it does, but he could also, show me where the ward should go and then ask me, what does this actually do? And asking your student to kind of give you the answer in that way allows them to think about the problem. And thinking about the problem in this coaching session will then probably translate to thinking about this problem in a game. And that's what you want to do for long-term improvement. The coach is not going to be sitting there picking out all of your mistakes as a player every time that you play a game. You need to actually learn to think about these things yourself. And so what I like to do in my sessions is I like to, give the knowledge where it needs to be, but then also try and get the student to think about the problems in real time. Because if they then start to think about it, then they can solve the problem themselves. And, you guide them in their process of discovery, but you don't have to give them all the answers right away. Help the student figure it out for themselves.
First of all, the idea of picking dual supports is that, alone the support cannot really do much, and you have two heroes that are not farming the lanes, so utilizing their time efficiently is one of the point of playing support. And if you just stick together, you can deliver like a chain stun or something, and it would be much more damage, and you can even get a kill. They say like, hey bro, just stick together to me, and we can together we can do big things, while separated we are very weak. So yeah.
So here Max gives me some great information, both theory and communication. So we're touching on a couple spots, a couple goals that we talked about in the beginning. So we've definitely covered all of the goals so far throughout this lesson. And the only thing I wanted to mention is that sometimes it's great to, in the process of giving the information, be like, here is the goal that we talked about. So just remind the student that this is something that they wanted to talk about, and point it out specifically, this is the important information. And then if you want to give them a task to practice that, it's also a good spot to do that. I guess I should probably have had a TP there, but I wouldn't have had any mana to help.
Yeah, absolutely. So you see, this is like the stuff that holds you back from like a lot of different plays, like you don't have mana.
So right here, I kind of volunteer some information. I had a little bit of a discovery by watching this replay, and this is a good spot for the coach to then give me a task. And we've talked about tasks before, but if Max then says, all right, so in your next 5 games, make sure, prioritize having mana at all times. Pay attention to your mana. Pay attention to having items that restore your mana. And give me some steps to do that, because in this coaching session, I asked for a theory or mechanical thing that I was doing wrong, and we've discovered that my mana management is really poor. So then if I have something to leave this lesson with, aside from just knowing that I'm bad at managing my mana, if I actually have an exercise to do in the game, in my next games, that will help me solidify this concept of better management of mana.
So coming back to the stuff we talked about the communicating here, I would say that you really didn't communicate a lot with the Rubik, because he is your main partner and you should be going together all the time. So now you probably understand that you should be communicating more with your second support. About the mechanics, I don't feel that you really have like issues with controlling the hero, or like, as we see, there was an example of like mechanics of the game, but you say you already learned it from that moment. So yeah, it just comes from experience, or just watching different stuff and reading. Like there is a good website called like Gamepedia. The third stuff about like your overall improvement is as I said, like use Dota guide section, get coaching, like analyze replays, and I mean mostly it's a very broad question. So if you want to specify something here, like after we got into something, then I can answer. But I mean, if you if you get a general question, you get a general answer. Like if you want to get better overall in the game, you just have to improve.
Get good, right? At the end, we recapped the goals that we had touched on and created together in the beginning. But if you notice, there was no sort of like task associated with each goal. We didn't really highlight specifically the goals again. We didn't have any sort of things to take from the lesson to work on those goals. Max did give me some good information and some good resources to kind of learn more. He gave me some videos. He gave me a couple websites to look at, which is great, and those are great resources. But again, it's sort of like giving me this reading information or these videos is not necessarily the best way that I personally learn. And throughout the lesson, I feel like it was kind of hinted that I learn in a specific way. And if Max or Illusion had highlighted specifically that way and kind of turned everything into a sort of like interactive experience, I might have retained a little bit more information better. Now, this is not to say that my way is the best way, and Illusion is certainly a very knowledgeable, skillful coach, and we actually have a good rapport between him and I. So it's sort of a more fun atmosphere to learn in, and that definitely helps. So I'm not trying to bash him in this video. I'm just pointing out a few specific areas where an excellent coach will take advantage of the information that I'm giving through my responses as a student to then tailor the lesson past that point directly to me to hit on those needs. And that's all I'm really trying to do as I make this video, is to point out that there is a specific pattern that you can follow to get better as a coach. And I want to empower coaches to, improve themselves and the way that they talk to students, so that as Dota continues to grow and as the demand for coaches continues to grow, that we can fill that need and elevate our scene to a whole new level because we have the skills to improve as a community. So thanks for watching, and I'd be happy to answer questions if you guys want to tweet at me or email me or just get in contact with me. My contact information is listed below. You can find me on Dota Coach, and you can also email me at ZereNityDota@gmail.com.